Under the same roof, we share the love, embracing the differences like hand in glove. Spreading peace and joy, it's a beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. And how do we stand in love's pure might? Watching the world share in love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.
All right, everybody, how are we doing? Welcome to Watching the World. I'm Candace Kelly. For a lot of you who do know me, I'm a legal analyst, and I am sitting in for Mel. As you have seen, you've seen a lot of our work together. Today, we're actually going to be talking a little bit about Fort Dix. We're going to be taking your questions, and Fort Dix, meaning the place where Sean Combs is right now. I think one of the most interesting things as I look at this, and you've probably seen the picture of Sean Combs down at Fort Dix in New Jersey. He's at the Federal Correction Institution. Now, I'm a New Jersey girl myself. I've actually visited that in the past. And, you know, I think that one of the things that we should know about Fort Dix is that this is a low security prison in the United States that hosts male offenders. And you know, it's located in Burlington County, and for people who want to understand the life of what he's going through there on a day-to-day basis, as we can see, he is out in the yard. He is mixing and mingling with people in terms of this recent picture that was released of him talking to prison inmates. This is one of the things that you get when you're at a low security prison. You get to mix with other people. You get to buy things from the commissary. You get to do all of those things. So I want to make sure that people actually ask a few questions. We'll be sharing information with each other to talk about Sean Combs. We're talking about Sean Combs today in the correctional facility in Fort Dix. Now, understand that when you actually go to a federal prison, this is something that was a process in terms of him having to actually land at this prison. The Federal Bureau of Prisons, they're the ones who actually made the final recommendation, had the final say. Of course, the judge that we know, Judge Arun Subramanian, he actually had a little bit of input, but really how Sean got to that prison where we see this picture where he is talking to the inmates on the yard, how he got there is because of a lot of information that was collected in the process to trying to figure out where he should actually land in a prison. This is someone who wanted a drug program. This is someone who wanted to be close to his family, right? And he does have headquarters and family that is in New York, so they can visit him there. He wanted this drug program, as you recall, if you recall, because it might potentially take time off of his sentence. And of course, in terms of rehabilitating prisoners, we want to make sure that they are rehabilitated. And you do that by finding a program, finding a prison that has a drug program that you can take part in. And if you know anything about the Sean Combs trial, you know that Sean Combs was on drugs. Throughout the trial, throughout the 8 weeks, we heard all types of drugs that he was on, from MDMA to cocaine, to opioids. That's how he actually first got addicted to it, according to witness testimony. He actually OD'd at one point. All I'm saying is that through the case, we found out that Sean Combs was a drug addict. Now, he's been behind bars for 1 year and about 3 months. But in terms of not being able to be out on bail, there were 13 months that he spent in preparation for the trial and during the trial. And at that point, if all things go according to what the prisons would want, at this point, he's probably clean, right? So, but maintaining that and keeping in that program, you want to go someplace that Fort Dix, that has a program available to you. Uh, you know, all right. So I am looking at some of the comments. Anybody have a question? Um, hey, good to see everybody. Good to see everybody. What do you think about this picture? Here are some of the questions that I want you to think about. You're in jail. Don't we have an expectation of privacy in jail? Listen, TMZ, first of all, I want to credit them for having that photo. TMZ crosses a lot of its T's. The founder of it, he's an attorney. He knows releasing this photo that he might get in a little bit of trouble. Who is the person who actually released this prison photo? Now, remember, when we were in court, federal courts generally do not have cameras in the courtroom. That is a no-no. State courts, state by state, you can have a camera in the courtroom. This is sometimes why we see defendants. This is why we saw O.J. Simpson. This is why we, saw Ted Bundy in court, because depending upon the state, that determines whether or not cameras in the courtroom. My point is, now he's gone to a jail, a federal jail. How in the world do we have no cameras in the federal courtroom, but somehow, somewhere, somebody got their hands on a camera and shared this picture of Sean Combs in his rehabilitative journey? I think it brings up a lot of questions. Number one, someone is in trouble. Can I just get an amen from someone? You're in jail, you're serving time, talking to people, who you finally have the opportunity to be outside, walk around. Now, one of the first few days that you're walking around, someone posts a picture of you. I think there's going to be an investigation as well. There should be. There is some expectation of privacy that you have when you're in jail, actually. You can expect you might have a mugshot that people see, but in terms of just your picture anywhere, right? We shouldn't see a picture of him in the shower at jail. We shouldn't see a picture of him sleeping at jail. We actually shouldn't see a picture of him on the yard in jail. Someone said, hey, gold digger, maybe someone that works in the jail, pay out for info pigs. Right, let's put that allegedly. We want to make sure that we do not get in trouble by anybody. What we do know is that picture looks like it was taken from the jail, from someone who was sitting high up, right? And we see him on the yard and he's talking. Now, I think what's interesting is that part of the rehabilitative process is that, you are a good prisoner, so to speak, someone who acts the way that is not interrupting anyone. So I'm not sure. I think what Gold Digger was saying is right on some levels. Somebody got something from this. Why do this? I'm his people. I'm mad. I'm his attorney. I'm mad, right? He picked this jail for a reason. And this isn't for or against Sean Combs. Let me say that. He's been sentenced. Everything has already been spoken. We are here now because now we have this picture of him that has been shown to the masses, right? So, someone said maybe a drone. Exactly. A drone. And when we talk about drones, I teach a lot of legal classes, illegal too. If you are in jail, if you are, in your cell, if you are eating lunch, we shouldn't see pictures of you. Someone's going to be in trouble at that facility. Let's talk a little bit too about what Sean Combs is trying to do at this facility. He picked it because it was close to his family. He picked it because it had a drug program for him to get through. He also picked it because of the fact that he knows he can reach out to prisoners and do what he's doing on the yard. We know that he created a program when he was at MDC, when he was in Brooklyn at that detention center. And this was a program that he designed to help inmates, find their passion, find who they were, discover themselves. He had one of the chapters in the table of contents in his syllabus was running the marathon, right? He's teaching these things about bettering yourself. And during the court session, during the sentencing hearing, we heard from inmates who said this was a great program. There was one inmate that couldn't even write, but he worked through someone else to make sure that his message got out to say, this was great. I'm a better person for it. So Sean is going to be hitting the ground running. This one says, thank you. So maybe someone that works in the jail. You're a nice person. Why? I thank you very much. Yes, double tap the screen to become a part of the world. I'm not sure how many viewers or listeners we have, but we are taking questions at this time. We are taking questions at this time. You know, the other thing that Sean Combs is doing in jail again. He's at the Federal Correctional Center in Fort Dix, about 40 miles outside of Philadelphia. And there are various compounds that make up the jail, but this is not a high security place. In fact, this is a place that actually encourages inmates to actually interact with each other, as we saw. This encourages inmates. You know, when someone goes to jail, there's a rehabilitative process that is put in place. So you're not going to have people who are put in isolation all day. You have people that are mixing, and that's what's important to understand about this process. What else is Sean Combs doing in jail? Well, behind bars, he's actually preparing for his appeal. Any person who is any attorney who's worth their salt, they start preparing for their appeal on day one. And by that, I mean, listen, we don't like the decision. So we actually want to go back to a court of appeals and appeal that decision and have that decision actually overturned. What his attorneys are going to say is that this Mann Act is a bunch of BS. That is exactly what they're going to say. This Mann Act is a bunch of BS. Mann Act, we're talking about moving somebody across state lines and for the purposes of, you know, being a part, engaging in sexual acts. Their main argument, though a little bit late in the game, their main argument was, listen, he wasn't involved in anything sexual. He was just a lawyer. He was just watching people have sex. What is the matter with that? That's one of the questions that they're going to be asking of the courts. Right now, low security is at the jail that he requested to serve his time at. So listen, anytime that somebody actually goes to jail, you have a pre-sentencing report. You ask a lot of questions of the defendant. You ask a lot of questions of people who are involved in the process and inside of the court system to find out what type of jail he or she is supposed to be a part of or what makes sense. Again, because he said he was a drug addict, he wanted to go to some place that had a drug program. So yes, he selected this jail. He really wanted it. The judge said, listen, I heard your request, but that is left to the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and they were the ones who actually made the official decision that he would serve there. So for him, this is a good thing. Why? Because, you know, New York, New Jersey, accessible to a lot of places. As I said, this is 40 minutes from Philadelphia. You can fly into Philadelphia, you can fly into New York, and all of your kids, all 7 of your kids can come and visit you. And he has locations in both places where he stays or family. You know, his mother is over on this end. His mother can come visit him. So this is a choice that he made, and that actually the courts actually agreed to allow him to serve. But I think that this particular question of this picture is not a good look. It's not a good look when you have a prison where a picture comes out and really what is his first or second week of serving in a jail. They're going to have to tighten up inside of the prison to see what exactly is going on here. Even though you're in jail, it doesn't mean that you don't have rights. Again, this is not a for Sean, against Sean argument. The problem with this picture is that when you are part of a system, you're not allowed to take these pictures. The other problem is there was a reason why this picture was taken. What would be the compelling reason? Well, what did this person get for this picture? TMZ has it. I do not know about the transactions about that in terms of was there an exchange or anything of that nature, but we do know that TMZ has its logo stamped all over the picture. And then the picture was released. So now we have Sean Combs. By the way, this is a first view of Sean Combs that people have seen in a while, in that He's gray bearded under that hat. It's a little chilly here out in New Jersey. Actually, today is not that bad. I went outside, but it's rather chilly. So he had that hat on, so you couldn't see the real full effect. But if you see the gray in his beard, his head and his head of hair matches the beard. Now, this isn't anything new. If you remember, and I've said this before on the show, remember him during COVID. If you look back, he had a gray beard, so we know he's gray. It's just that this time it's a little fuller, slightly more, I don't want to say disheveled, but it's not as clean cut. And then in terms of his hair, again, it's not this specific, beautiful style of a cut. It's a gray afro and a matching gray beard. And so some people would say, wow, he looked good or he looked bad. I will tell you that based upon the first time that he was in jail, he actually looks pretty healthy in terms of the first appearance that I saw him in court, rather. He looked slightly gaunter. His sweaters didn't fit him as much. But over this period of 8 weeks, he filled out those sweaters. He also had a lighter expression on his face. And I think that particularly on the yard with other inmates, that he was really carrying on a conversation where he didn't look, like he looked in court. On some days, especially those first couple of weeks, where you don't know where your life is going to land, this is certainly a far cry from that. All right, let's take some questions from out there. Make sure that you double tap, like, subscribe, become a part of the World 777 family. As we are talking about Sean Combs today in the prison that he is in Fort Dix. Today we're going to go to probably about 12:30. What are some of your questions before we dig in a little bit more into Sean Combs, what he's doing right now on any given day? If you look up Fort Dix, what you will find, as I said, is that it's a low security prison, and that he is part of their residential drug abuse program. As I mentioned, his legal team is the one that specifically asked for him to enroll into this program that was particularly close to his family. Now, as a reminder, he is serving a 50-month sentence. That's just a little bit over 4 years. There have been some exact reports by the system that said he will serve, I think, until 2028 when we do all the math. And again, we don't know what will happen with him in jail for good behavior and the program. They say May 8th, 2028 is the exact release date. So he's in the drug program unit. And this actually makes a difference because this is kind of separate from the general population that's enrolled in the program. Now you think about when somebody goes into a program, the people who you're with, think about any movie that you've seen or anybody that you know that has been inside of one of these programs or is a recovering addict. When you are inside a room with someone and sharing space with those people who are like you have a much better result, right? That's what all those rooms, because you have to have a room that's full of trust. You have to have a room of people where you're sharing your story. Sean Combs will have to share his story. Everybody, might say, but we know his story. Only Sean Combs knows his story. Sean Combs never took the stand, right? We have not heard firsthand from Sean Combs. If you think about it, the people who are behind bars right now, who are part of his drug program, they're going to be the first people to actually hear firsthand from Sean Combs' story. Maybe his family has heard it. I'm sure his attorneys have heard it, certainly. His mom knows it, right? He certainly has talked to his mom the way that he talked specifically to his mom in that last day of court, October 3rd, when he was sentenced, and he turned to his mom and said, "I'm a failure." He has told his mom about his drug problems. This is nothing new. What's new is that now he's sharing with a shared population who he actually resides with about his drug problem, right? And once you share with someone, once you talk about all the issues that you have, you open yourself up and you have to become more vulnerable and go through the process of why you were on drugs and how you actually got on them. He talked to the judge specifically about going through a spiritual reset he called it. He talked to the judge on that October 3rd sentencing about being a nonviolent, peaceful person. And all of that is the rehabilitation process that you want to go through and expect somebody to go through when they are in jail. The other thing we know about him is that he is really trying to make a commitment to actually make a comeback. So that's my question to you right now. Do we think that Sean Combs is finding himself for a comeback that will actually be a successful one? Will he be able to fill concert halls? Will he be able to sell out tickets? Will Sean Combs be able to actually make this comeback? Well, I think that the public has amnesia in many, many ways. We are very short-lived in what we're paying attention to. And when he actually gets out, listen, people are probably trying to send him their demo tapes, if you will, old school, to him right now. This is not someone who the people, and I mean, I say the people, I mean the general public. It doesn't seem like the general public has equalized him to R. Kelly, for example, right? And plus, Sean Combs is actually getting out before he turns the age of 60, probably. It says, oh, he's getting a comeback already, someone said. Yeah, I think so. He got a standing ovation after the guilty verdict was read. Remember, he dropped down to his knees, a little premature, I would say, because the Mann Act and the prostitution charges certainly carried. He could have gotten 20 years. We know that would have been ridiculous, but I think he fell down to his knees a little too premature, as we see, because he's going to be there in 2028. But when he went back to the jail, standing ovation, clapping. What people see, I think, in Sean Combs is a little bit of themselves. And let me tell you, if you're from New York, and the people who were in that line from the public, they were mostly supporters of Sean Combs. I saw a lot of Black men who identified with Sean Combs, because let's be real, we are talking about the United States American justice system. It does not do us well. Let us not kid ourselves. So he is a representation of a lot of different people who see themselves in him. Says, he's getting a okay, Delco. Okay, Delco. Delco's making jokes over here in the DM. I got you. You got a sense of humor. But keeping to the facts, okay, Delco, you want to stick with me? Delco, give me a real question. But sticking to the facts, I think that he will be able to get on a stage, and if anything, people will at least want to see, all right, well, what does he look like? What does he sound like? And what is he going to do? There's going to be people who are interested in what he's going to do on any stage in 2028. Remember, during the sentencing, there was this question that came up as to whether or not, he was going to actually be making an appearance on that Monday after the sentencing. This came up. Prosecutors were like, this is ridiculous. Why are we talking about his appearance? Now, his defense said, no, it's not necessarily an appearance. We want to make it like he's taking the stage and, doing some Biggie Small songs. What this is that he's going to be speaking to people, relating to them, sharing his stories. So they kind of played it down in that this is not an appearance in the way that we think of in a celebrity. This is Sean Combs going out and reinventing himself, talking to people and saying, hey, I have learned, and through my journey, I want you to learn too. But, a little premature. I don't think that the prosecutors or the judge took it very lightly or in a good way at all, that he potentially had an appearance on what would be October the 6th. Sentencing was October the 3rd. So here's what we know. We know that he's ready to get out there. We know that during sentencing, had he gotten off, he would have, gotten out. And I guess over the weekend, you have to officially shift out of jail. He would have been out by that Friday or Saturday. And he was going somewhere to make an appearance. So we know that it is heavy on his mind to do so. Before the trial, and during the trial, his attorney spoke of Sean Combs making a comeback. So making a comeback has always been on his mind, always been on his mind. And I think that he has a good chance of doing that. Even if just for the purposes of people being voyeurs into what the heck he's doing on stage, people are going to come. People are going to attend the concert or attend whatever he puts on. He's also going to, in jail, we see the picture of him. We know that everything that he does, people are watching, obviously. Not only are watching, but they're taking pictures. So he is going to have a very, very kind of narrow-minded journey, if you will, in terms of making sure that he keeps on track, making sure that he makes the right decisions, because apparently everybody is watching. And not only is everybody watching, but they're taking pictures. What do you guess his cellmates and people in his particular area and in the drug rehab area are talking to him about? I mean, they're asking him questions about who he was on the outside, what it's like on the outside. They're talking to him about music. They're talking to him about, this nephew they have that's really good. Trust me, they are networking with Sean Combs. And Sean Combs is networking with them. Why? Because he knows that people are watching and he wants to make sure that he stays on the straight and narrow. Look at Meek Mill, right? On probation, very long time. And, reports of a gun being on him. Anytime that you fall short, that attention is on you. Sean is going to be doing everything that he can to make sure he is doing the exact right thing. And let's think about the rehabilitative system as we know it. It was created so that people could get better. You have a lot of people out there who might say, but what he did was despicable, and he should be behind these walls longer than these 4 years. And that is true. But you also have to remember the process. And the process is that people were selected for a jury. They heard all of the evidence and they made a decision. The process was also that he didn't get off, right? They did think that there was some accountability that needed to be had when it came to the two victims that the judge took into consideration during sentencing. I think it's also interesting that there was a recommended longer jail sentence, and the judge actually went below that particular recommendation. I think regardless of what side you were on, it's not that either side should make you happy, but we know that there was not one side or the other to the extreme. He didn't walk free, all right, but he also didn't get the longest jail sentence. The judge gave us somewhere in between, and I think that actually made sense for him. For the system, I don't know. I mean, at the heart of this, let me just be real. At the heart of this was a domestic violence case. That's what this was really about. Now, it wasn't portrayed in that way. We heard about domestic violence, but he did not go to jail for the domestic violence. In fact, the part that involved violence in terms of the charges, he got off on. His was just prostitution. And I do mean just prostitution. Some people are like, wait a minute, here's a problem. I know a lot of people who do this. This could happen to me. Yeah. If your target's on your back, it could happen to you. The prosecutors choose cases for a reason. The same reason the Supreme Court of the United States chooses cases for a reason. They get about 9,000 cases a year to select from the Supreme Court, and they use their discretion to hear about 60 to 70 cases. Similarly, prosecutors in New York, they made a case out of Sean Combs. They could have picked anybody, right? Because there are plenty of people who might be involved in RICO charges or prostitution charges. But when you're a Black man who's a celebrity in America, targets are certainly on your back. Trust me. Trust yourself, especially if you're a Black man. Now, I'm not saying that he didn't do nothing, but I'm saying that in terms of selecting the case to make a case for this type of case, he got selected because he is Sean Combs. Hey, Deborah, good to see you. Good to see you, Deborah. You have any questions? I see Deborah Phil, who is joining us. Good to see you. Good to see you. All right. Love you all too. Love you all too. How many people do we have on here? I'm not sure how many we have today. But that is what is called discretion. That is what's called discretion. And that's why if you look at both sides, I think there are arguments on both sides. Do I think that this was a RICO case? It was not. It was not. Unfair prosecution in terms of a RICO case, I think it was over the top. I also thought that when it came to the RICO case, you're dealing with so many underlying thresholds that have to be met, like say a kidnapping or arson, and all of these things that you had to look at under the RICO statute, they just weren't explained well. There's too much that was going on. And I also think on the side of Sean, his attorneys, they made some very good arguments, but they made them late. This whole thing about the Mann Act, and that, yes, maybe he crossed people for state lines, but it was for voyeurism. He wasn't involved in any sexual acts. That wasn't really the case that they made from the get. It was made a little longer, but by that time, all the tentacles of the justice system had really kind of spread. We've got about 2 more minutes. The other thing that I think is going to come up on appeal, and again, this is going back to that picture that you saw of Sean Combs on the yard. Go ahead and Google it. TMZ released this picture of him on the yard with other people. The other thing that he's going to be talking about on his appeal is perhaps the jurors that were on the case. Perhaps, again, the Mann Act, whether or not that was fair to even use. They're going to say that this was unfair prosecution. Day one, any attorney, what they'll do in a court case is they will write down the things that are going to be a part of the appeal. You should always appeal. I mean, if you have the money, if you have the time. You know, there's some people who appeal all the way to the Supreme Court, like 15 years. Do I think they'll appeal to the Supreme Court? Who knows? They have the right to. If they think that this issue is important enough that the law should actually be changed, they can appeal all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, as we know, is law of the land. Of course, I know that is being tested these days. But once the Supreme Court says something, it trickles down to all of the states. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about Sean Combs' attorney saying this isn't only fair, not fair for him. This is not fair for any of the future cases to come. So you might see some of this on appeal. Someone wrote, hey, I saw him on the yard and he was smiling. Yeah, Deborah, he was smiling. And I think that this is because this is the choice that he wanted to go to Fort Dix, close to 2 cities, New York City and Philadelphia, so that his family could fly in and easily see him. Also a place where he could get drug rehab and be a part of their program. This is the drug abuse program, the residential drug abuse program, RDAP, to address his abuse issues. So it's separate and apart from the other inmates. They kind of all live together, which allows you to build trust and share. And you kind of got to get to know the people that you're sharing with and build trust so that you can share your story. The same way that drug rehabs work on the outside. It's very private, it's very insular, and there has to be a lot of trust so that everybody can share their story. So, listen, so someone put, no one cares. I'm gonna take you to that Reaper one. You know why people should care? People should care because your tax dollars are paying into the drug system, into the legal system, if you will. Your taxpayers are paying into the system of federal prisons. That's your money, Reaper one. No one cares. That's your money. Where is it going? There's got to be some accountability. So you should care. You don't have to. But a lot of people do care because this is the system, if you ever get picked up, that you are going to be tried in the same way, or probably not as even well, because who can afford all those attorneys? He spent millions. And that's why you need to understand the system so that you're not afraid of the system and be empowered to have information. From the first time you are picked up, you have to know all of the rules. When you say separate, does that mean separate in terms of housing for those? Yes, they all live amongst each other. The different wings of Fort Dix, but yes, so that they are doing things together as a group collectively. That's what I mean. So they're eating together, right? They're on the yard together. These are people that he's going to be with consistently. And I believe it's a year program. But back to my point as I close off Reaper 1, everyone should care. And if you don't, I guess that's up to you. But when we look at the legal system that is out there today, and we talk about the fact that people, hundreds of thousands, do not have jobs since early October because of disagreements about healthcare, that's the system that you're paying into. That's the exact same system. It's all under one roof, right? You've got the executive branch and the judicial branch and the legislative branch. They all work together. We just happen to be talking about the judicial branch today. That's your money. A lot of people care. You know why? Because hundreds of thousands of people are out of work. And I promise you that today, sitting at home, they do care. They do care. So if you're not interested in the case, that's one thing, but I would say learn from the cases that you are seeing in the headlines. I teach the law, and I find that people don't understand it, so they're afraid of it. And then when that happens, they start kind of losing their rights because they don't understand them. Then you have different people that can take advantage of you. Do you know when you should be Mirandized? Think about it. When does Miranda happen? We should do a whole show on that. All right, everyone, it has been good seeing you these 39 minutes. Mel, thank you for letting me sit in today. This was fun. Thank you for all of your questions. Everyone, be well. Make sure to like, subscribe, and remember that we're going to be going live weekly with Luigi Mangione. This is a case that's going to be coming to you in January. But before that, we're going to be talking a lot about Luigi Mangione, all of the things. We talk about being Mirandized. That's a big thing in that case. We're going to be talking about his life. We're going to be talking about how he grew up. We're going to be talking about his attorneys. We're going to be talking about the major arguments that his defense attorneys are saying in terms of all the evidence and why they think it should be suppressed. This is all a really, really big deal. We're going to be talking about his fans. We're going to be talking about why this is so divisive. We were just talking about the Affordable Care Act and the government shutdown. All of this ties in. It all has to do with healthcare. Healthcare, why is it so expensive? Why are MRIs rejected so much? What's going on with these healthcare systems? We are also going to talk about the CEO of United Healthcare. And healthcare has been in some legal troubles recently. The Department of Justice is in the middle of investigating them right now. So there are a lot of things going on. Everybody, have a great day, and we will see you. Let's see. Yes, Candace, that would be good. Yeah, the Miranda show. All right, send all your good ideas that you have. What do you want to see? Good to see you, and have a great day.
Different voices, but the same song. Living a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the flame remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days inside. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. Harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.